The fact that this episode of Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid starts off with Kana calling Kobayashi a dummy and just like has this very childlike insults was pretty great. And as you can see, if you want to skip to any of the reviews, they are embedded in the actual video. We're recording these in two different parts, hence why they are separated like this, but still, this episode that I didn't get a chance to cover last week was gold. It was specifically Kana focused, which means you're gonna melt, means you're gonna laugh, means you're gonna have a grand old time, which is exactly what I had. I mean, Kana fights the Mafia, she goes to, I believe it was New York, she meets a new friend, she has an incredible adventure that ultimately has her come back to Kobayashi, realizing that she messed up, that she was to blame for the fight, whatever it was. I'm actually glad they didn't really touch upon what happened, because that just happens, right? A child gets upset over something, probably nothing too big. Ultimately, the parent and the child kind of feel both a little guilty, and they come back together towards the end, and you basically end with them spending a lazy day together, eating watermelon, going and exploring the town, and just really proving that Kobayashi has really become her mother. And I love that she never had to be that, she never had to grow into that role, but she did because that's how much Kana influenced her and honestly made her a better person and let her heart open up more than had she not been a part of her life. I think the interesting way that they just explained world building, like the idea that Kana, because she's been living in Japan, speaks Japanese. So when she goes to an English-speaking country, she has no idea what people are saying. But in a matter of seconds, she can listen to that language and readjust and know how to say it and understand it, which was really cool. The idea of her simply wanting to buy a hot dog, didn't have the currency. She made a rich friend, so therefore we'll use the giant black credit card. We don't accept credit, right? There was just constantly an escalation of comedy, and the idea that rather than having explosive fight scenes, when a mob is chasing a little girl, she pokes them and they go flying. Or the idea when simply, well, her friend gets kidnapped in a very outlandish fashion. The car's moving like we're in Lupin the Third. It's just really vibrant, fun, bouncy energy as we're building up this intense scene, and a dragon knocks on the door and rescues her friend. It was just a constant idea of like a very simple idea. A child running away, but because we're following a dragon, we could go on an outlandish adventure to another country, meet a new friend, have pen pals be something that's there, as we ultimately rebuild and rekindle that relationship and make the bonding between Kobayashi and Kana all the more memorable. These types of episodes really don't need to do anything explosive or hilarious, it can just simply be heartwarming and melting scenes, which it was, but it was batshit hilarious. And I seriously love that rather than taking the focus away from Kana and Kobayashi, they kept them as the relevant focus. Kobayashi had the least amount of time in this episode, however, she was still very relevant. Kobayashi was not in like 3/4 of the episode, it was Kana's adventure with her newfound friend, which is great, but she was always thinking about Kobayashi. You could tell that she was worried about Kobayashi, and I love the fact that Toru was actually following her the entire time. There's a joke in the episode where they basically flash to different scenes and Toru's in all of the scenes. If you rewind and look at those situations, she was actually there the whole time, completely glossed over, didn't even look at it, and there's a couple of those shots that I actually actively looked at the background details, didn't even notice Toru's character model. Just an overall overwhelmingly adorable episode that if you needed your sugar fix, this episode did so. And I really enjoyed it, and I'm really excited to see what the newest episode is going to do today, so let's transition over to that review. The thing I love about Dragon Maid is how anything can happen and it will be exciting. The first fourth of this episode, 6 minutes give or take, was just Kobayashi having back pain because she works so much, doesn't have a great chair, sits all day in a bad posture, so she's very sore. We watch her buy a ridiculous amount of exercise equipment to hopefully help get her muscles and joints feeling a bit better, a bit more relaxed, things like that, as you have Toru trying to figure out what it is that she could do in order to make her feel better. And that's all an episode of Dragon Maid needs to be, right? Just simple moments. We have dragons interacting with a human. The comedy kind of writes itself, and it's wholesome because the characters continue to grow and develop with someone like Kobayashi, who has become a friend, a sister, a mother, a potential love interest, all the individual characters. But then they smack you with Toru backstory, and we get to see what it is that made Toru flee to the human world, why she was injured, why Kobayashi means so much to her. And that's the meat and potatoes. That's the thing that makes something like Dragon Maid go from an entertaining slice of life to something with top-tier character development and world building. The idea that dragons simply have a status quo, they fight every so many centuries, things happen for a simple reason, but then you have someone like Toru who finally takes actions into her own hands, the desire to be free, and yeah, kind of gets smacked down by God himself. And while being free and doing things for yourself, you kind of realize that it's more lonely and fearful than you could have possibly imagined. And the idea of a drunken Kobayashi randomly stumbling upon her, coincidence, and obviously in very anime fashion, story fashion, that's how the intro happened. But to see the idea that that drunken wanderer not only gave her a sense of companionship in her loneliest time of need, she also realized, helping her and being a maid is what she truly wanted. And that type of stuff that you don't get enough of in shows like this, and I really think that's the star of Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. We love KyoAni, and we love how they animate things. And of course, if it had a more basic production value, of course, there would be a lot less buzz, I think. But, this series got popular for a reason before the anime came about. And the reason is simply because of the character building. Love the Kana stuff with the previous episode I just discussed, but also the Toru content, because it really feels like Season 2 has kind of touched upon everything it kind of needs to. Of course, I'd love one more big Alulu moment just to kind of put a nice bow around the entire package. But even without it, I can't help but say this was not only a step up above Season 1, but it feels like the momentum is just getting started, and that's a really exciting feeling. When you bring back Toru's father, I just naturally assume drama. I think the last time we saw him was at the end of Season 1, if memory serves me correct. But to see, the idea that he may not ever agree with someone like Kobayashi or even Toru's wish, however, he still wants Kobayashi to take care of her until her human lifespan runs out. It's really nice to get episodes like these that are simply cute and adorable, but also really cement a relationship like Toru's and Kobayashi's, so you can't help but say anything other than they're destined for greatness. Even though she continues to try to feed her her tail, and even though Kobayashi may say the wrong thing sometime, ultimately, they really do have each other's back, and I love how they're actually confronting each other about their feelings more and more, and both of them are starting to feel a lot more comfortable and kind of organic in their relationship between the other, and that's really interesting. Honestly, I have no idea what type of episode they want to go about. It almost feels like we're building up to the perfect, storm of, the typical firework festival type episode where everyone comes together, holds hands, they sing Kumbaya, and everyone is just very happy. That feels like ultimately the type of direction I would expect. But really, Dragon Maid Season 2, if you wanted something, it probably gave it to you, but never in ways you totally expect. So it'll be fun to see where they take it, but incredible stuff, character development on point, relationship building on point, and production remains to be top tier as expected from KyoAni. Thoughts and feelings on either last week's episode or this latest one down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.